The interest in crypto is very, very quickly growing here, and so I thought there would be no better time than right now to make a video touching on 5 easy to implement tips to keep you ahead of this new money coming into the space, because as we should all hopefully know by now, that is where we actually make all of our money. It's from these people who buy when we decide to sell. So guys, please pay attention. This will allow you to stay ahead of not just the dumb money, but 95% of the crypto market in general, because unfortunately, a lot of people in this space neglect some of these things I will tell you today. So it's going to be very important for your crypto success. And look, if you do enjoy the content or like what I say and want to say a big thank you, drop a like on the video. It really helps me out. But importantly, subscribe so you can achieve your crypto goals. Now, to give you some context as to why I feel like this is such an important time to talk about it is because, of course, the adoption of crypto as a general market is growing. More people are walking down the street, talking to each other, and of course, expressing their love for the gains they've so far made with Bitcoin and some altcoins, okay? I think a lot of us are like anywhere between 5 to like 2x up on just alts alone. And so as we can see by this chart here, now I want to say Google Trends is never a chart you should isolate and just look at, but it is good to see that the adoption of the term, or at least the interest in the term crypto on Google has grown. Now, we're currently at a score of 29, which is interesting because the way this is kind of ranked is based on the highest peak amount of interest that particular search term, obviously in this case crypto, has had, and we are now 25% of the max. So I actually think we'll be well and truly above and beyond the top over here. And keep in mind, the top was 100. Of course, that was the top. And I think we'll find a new top somewhere around here, just based on the fact that we are right now 2 years out from the actual end of the cycle, and 12 months before the end of the cycle last time around, we were only at a score of about 26 or so. So again, that was 12 months before the end of the cycle. We're 2 years. I think obviously interest will grow as it does year on year. That's nothing too surprising. So looking at some actual metrics in this case, we can come to June and have a look at the inflows in the Bitcoin ETFs over the last couple of months here. And as we can see, about $5 billion have come into Bitcoin, calculated to be about roughly 4% of the supply of Bitcoin, which is incredible. Again, considering these haven't been around for a very long time at all. Not even 2 months, really, have they? So again, this was a bit... this actually overperformed a lot of our expectations. I don't think any of us expected $5 billion of trading and basically all inflows over this time period. A lot of us expected about, 3 billion maybe. So this is obviously a very good sign to see, and as we get more enterprises doing their research and due diligence on Bitcoin and these ETFs and so on, they're going to be more inclined to buy in over the next 2 years, which obviously will help bring more support for ultimately altcoins. Even though directly it doesn't actually help, I feel like the feeling and the momentum that will be gained from Bitcoin holders will take profits, and as we know, the waterfall, they'll put money into Ethereum and larger altcoins and so on. Now, I want to quickly point out here before we move on, the Fear and Greed Index is a score right now of about 75, and it was interesting because we peaked out in the last cycle at a Fear and Greed score of 75. Back over here, it was quite high as well, 95 at the early phase of the bull run, and I think we will have a similar situation. But the interesting thing is we haven't really peaked below 50, okay? It's only ever so slightly peaked sometime in January, but, over the last, since October, it's been nothing but green, which means, of course, people are just simply overjoyed with crypto right now. And that is the dumb money that I speak about. That's the people who we need to make money from, because they're now, crypto's peaking, crypto's pumping. Let's get in. So let me give you these 5 tips. Let me give you the tips to allow you to beat these people. And quick tip number 1 is moon bags. When you hear people tell you, hey, Jimmy, I think that you guys should, sell your initial investment at a certain level and then take 25% of your portfolio and sell it 1, 2, and 3, and then let the rest ride and hold your bags and sell it sometime at the top. I actually think that's a very detrimental thing. Now, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Matter of fact, I think it's probably a pretty good idea for some of you, but I don't think you should do that for any more than 10% of your portfolio. Now, mind you, all of these tips today, no, I'm not financial advice. None of this sort of stuff I'm telling you is the bee's knees. And for some of you guys that are more experienced, you can do this. I'm just kind of trying to cater my answer to the 95, 99% of the people watching this video. And so circling back to the reason why I don't think any more than 10% is good is because what you're essentially saying is I'm capable of selling at a level that I will actually look to legitimately take profit. Now, this sort of runs in line with you buying the bottom. Now, ask yourself, were you someone who looked at the recent bottom back in September, October of last year and said to yourself, this is obviously a very good time to buy. I need to put my positions in. I'm going to guess 99% of you listening to this did not do that whatsoever. So what gives you the kind of ability, or what gives you the confidence to go ahead and say, I'm going to be able to take that 25%, which is a lot. That's 1/4 of your portfolio, and not feel any greed or FOMO and continue holding and holding and holding. I think if you did decide to do this, again, my sort of answer to the question would be, that's fine. You might want to sell at 25% like this, 25, 25, 25. But I think, again, scattering it out on the top is probably a good thing. Obviously, keeping in mind we're trying to achieve some sort of weighted average, right? We're trying to achieve an actual sell level on average. So make sure you do account for that. Of course, I've got many videos on the channel telling you how to do that. But this last 10%, I think a really great way to help you actually prevent screwing up is, if you do decide to do this, have some levels in which you are guaranteed to take profit. And maybe you don't take profit on the way up. Maybe you let it continue to ride, but it's when it hits that first top level on the way down is when you look to sell. That's my tip number one. I would, again, firmly say for the average crypto investor who doesn't really have the acute or timely ability to come in here all the time and spend that hours researching and analyzing, that holding any more than 10% on the top is probably a pretty disastrous idea. Quick tip 2 is follow a narrative first, not a project. Now, that might sound a bit counterintuitive. Why are we trying to chase where the money's generally going to go and not actually buy what we think the most money is going to gravitate to? Well, this is actually the most important part of your research, in my opinion, okay? It kind of does follow with another part we like to talk about called the mean, but this is where it all starts. Now, most of you who are even new to crypto should kind of have a rough idea by now that when new money comes into crypto, what do you first look for? What's the hot topics? And that's what's classified as a narrative, okay? A narrative can be things like layer 1 altcoins, storage, oracles, DePIN, ZKPs, modularity, whatever, okay? These are narratives. And chances are when someone wants to spend money, dumb money is going to flow into what they think that all the hot topic is at the moment, okay? Right now, it's kind of like AI has been meme coins recently as well. And then, of course, in that point in time, they try to find the one that's the most unique. They try to find the one that is the best. And that's kind of where we look at something else called the meme, not the premise of this video, because all I want you to do is focus on this first. If you focus on this, chances are you're going to be in a pretty good spot versus everyone else in crypto. You see, because everyone else in crypto likes to find their altcoins. They like to search up projects randomly, buy into them for a couple of weeks, think to themselves, hey, this isn't really pumping right now, I'm going to sell. And then they sell and then they end up catching their tail 24/7. And ultimately, they always fall back in the form of AI coins are popping off. I've got to go buy an AI coin. But if you just wait patiently in the right narrative, like, you're just ready there, stealthy, ready to go, well, that's where, of course, you're just waiting for that tick up. It will happen, okay? And so I've identified some narratives here to be the most promising for the next 1 to 2 years. And that's the likes of interoperability all the way down to big data. Now, I update this list quite frequently. All, of course, is updated and blasted in the private community. So, of course, those guys will have access to this. But this is the current standings for, my rankings and the narratives, okay? So all of these, I believe, will be 10 out of 10. We have the 9s and the 8s, okay? I think anything less than an 8 out of 10, the narrative is still good, at least especially in the 6 to 7. But I think anything less than a 5 and a 4, you're really trying to look more for the actual altcoin in this case. That's where it'll play more importance. You're trying to find the one that is the best in that, because ultimately I think that most money will flow into these no matter what coins it really is, okay? Wakey wakey, for anyone who may be watching this video and falling asleep, I've got just a thing to spring you back to life. Today I'm partnering with Taboo, an altcoin that, well, let's just say is probably right up your alley. As you may have guessed by the name, Taboo is an adult entertainment project that provides media and streaming services with access to their array of models at real-life events. With features like calendars, magazines, NFT collections, and a whole lot more, Taboo offers more than just video content. What they do is provide unprecedented access to models with millions of followers like Chloe Ture, Jaylene Cook, and Jenny Summers, which are some of the hottest models in the adult industry. Now, their roadmap indicates that we are due for a marketplace revamp sometime in the first quarter of this year, with the addition of Taboo Metaverse in quarter 2, mobile app and AI companions in quarter 3, and that highly anticipated mansion party in quarter 4. As a matter of fact, they've actually already had their first exclusive mansion party event, which took place in 2022 for their top tier holders. The important thing I really wanted to mention about Taboo is that they are heavily committed to not just falling into the category of another not safe for work project. They've designed their services to really appeal to the widest audience possible while offering all the same services, of course, behind the scenes. The reason actually is quite smart. They're not trying to pigeonhole themselves for marketing purposes, which, as we should all know, is a very important thing in exposure for a brand and company. With the Web 2 adult entertainment market currently on target to break $300 billion worldwide by 2025 and crypto to fall somewhere around $7 trillion, Taboo is a unique blend of two massive markets with the, let's just say, additional benefits, of course. It's important to note that the founders are currently not doxxed, so make sure you guys go ahead and do your own research. And with that said, back to the video. Whether it's an average coin and multiple of these top narratives, that is ultimately where the money will flow into. And if you're kind of scratching your head like, what's no BS talking about here? Well, this is it. I've done lots of hours of research into narrative and the meme, and the narrative is a trigger. It's an event in which causes the all-time high of a project, or at least in like 95% of cases, most projects will have their all-time high with the narrative. In the case of ADA, as we can see here, it had its all-time high a few months before Bitcoin's all-time high in the last cycle, caused by a trigger, which was the narrative. And in this case, the narrative, of course, is a layer 1 project. All layer 1 projects pretty well pumped at this time. Some pumped a bit later. That's a whole different topic of a different story. But ultimately, that is what we're looking for, because again, that is where the money will FOMO into at a given time. All we have to do is wait for that to actually happen, not chase our tail. And so what this looks like is a possible chance of having multiple narratives bring the project to higher lows. See these points over here? We might have a narrative that, a project might have 3. For example, it might have deepen, AI, and storage. A lot of these projects these days have those 3 things, a lot of the promising ones. And so we might have narrative 1, which might be storage, creating a higher low. Then narrative 2 creates, which might be AI, for example, creates that, second higher low. And then what actually creates that massive blow off top moment might be something like storage, for example, or deepen. And that creates the all-time high and, of course, technically still higher lows. And that's why it's so important to look for projects in multiple between 8 to 10 primary narratives. Now, what is a primary narrative? Well, it's just simply what the project is actually known for, either now or will be. For example, 12 months ago, Chainlink was only known as an oracle. Now it's also known as Oracle plus interoperability and also, to a degree, tokenization. So you have to kind of forecast what it'll be known for over the next 2 years based on some, roadmap events and announcements. And so that's very important for you guys to do. Hence why with my projects, I'm trying to, if I can kind of clear this, I'm trying to double or triple up on projects that I buy with multiple of these, at least 2 or 3, okay? So I want to buy 2 projects that hit multiple of these, 2 of these, because by doing that, it's going to allow my whole portfolio to kind of move up in synchronization pretty much like this, but on my whole portfolio wise. Tip 3 is kind of building off tip number 2, and that is don't FOMO in to an altcoin because an influencer says to do so. Now, I'm almost speaking to my old self in this case because I actually did this quite a lot at the beginning of the last cycle. I was chasing my tail buying coins that a particular influencer who I held to a higher regard was telling people to buy. Now, I like to make reviews, at least personally, on projects, but here, and you guys might know this with smaller channels and even larger channels, right? What they'll do is they'll kind of tell it to you in a way and say, I'm buying this coin, or they'll say, in one video, I'm going to buy at this price and da-da-da-da, and then they never talk about it ever again, okay? They don't actually build on that. They kind of make you want to feel like you're buying it and then tell you they're going to buy it, and they never really do. And so I'm not singling out these guys here. I just typed in crypto tier list. As a matter of fact, you're going to see my face pop up here. Be very careful with these tier list videos. And I say that even with my face on this list, because people in the space, I'm speaking from a researcher in crypto first. Forget about being an influencer here for a second. As someone who researches and spends a lot of time doing this, these guys don't know what they're talking about. So now, again, I kind of want to bleep their faces out because don't look at any of these one guys individually. I don't watch any of their channels, right? But I'm just saying this, and not just for tier list videos, but for individual reviews as well, because there is a thing in crypto where people just like to entertain. They like the views, they like the attention, and it's a very easy space in crypto to get easy views and attention because of the bull run. And so I'm just warning you right now, if they don't go into detail into the technology, into the unique aspects, they don't actually break it down, and they just kind of sit on the website's homepage and read word for word what is mentioned, they don't know what the project is. And I would just take that as entertainment, not as any sort, you shouldn't just anyway, but any sort of financial advice or financial, I guess, opinions, and if that makes any sense. So if you want some proof of me going through these altcoins in as much depth as I possibly could within an hour, I've got this video on my channel, the last live stream video I did, where I actually broke down entirely for over an hour all these altcoins I ranked in a tier list, and you can very easily tell, yes, I've done my research. And so all I'm really kind of getting at in this point is, yes, listen to them, like enjoy their content. These guys work very hard. It's not easy to make videos, but I just want to say, please don't take what they say as any sort of financial opinion or advice. Like, do not do that, please. Like, most of us at least should be pretty good judges of character in the fact that it is extremely, extremely obvious someone doesn't know what they're talking about when they come to Hedera's website and they can, like in broken English, basically, read kind of what the project is talking about. If they're kind of struggling to understand what finality is and stuff like that, and they don't go into any more detail other than just reading word for word, like anyone can, then obviously they don't have the technical ability to really know what the project is. And that doesn't really mean it's the be all and end all of their, quality or what they do believe in, or like how good their calls might be. It's just an indication for you to go, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't take this person's, opinion or advice as the bee's knees. I shouldn't make a call or a buy based on this solely. Now, by the way, the reason why I've got my microphone so close to my face is because it just started raining and there is literally no sort of roof on the little shed I'm in for my office right now. So that is why I've stuck this right in front of my mouth. But we will move on. Number 4 today is knowing when to buy it, basically, right? Knowing when to call it quits. And this is a hard thing for a lot of people to do because it's easy to feel FOMO and it's easy not to do this. If you don't have all your projects charted out very simply with one line, and that is at least the max entry price where you don't buy any more than this, only less than it because of a price prediction, right? Because that'll allow you to get your multiples in, then you're doing something very, very wrong, right? Because this is literally half of the equation. If you don't buy at the right price, and you expect to sell at a certain level or have a certain amount of revenue in your account, you're waiting for that magic revenue number, and that may never come, and you might get stuck holding your bags because you just didn't buy on average early enough, right, or on average enough. So in this case, all I would do is just train you or tell you to do this, right? Find the entry level, and it's not hard to do. What I'm going to do is, again, leave this sheet you're looking at right now completely free in the Discord down below under the Miro board section. And this is going to be this little sheet here I made a while back, will allow you to kind of follow through the steps, right? What to do in step 1, step 2, step 3, so on, to give you entry levels, right, on all your projects. This is it. This is all you have to do. Just follow through step 1, step 2, step 3. And I've got videos as well touching on how to do this. I will leave them below too. It kind of works hand in hand with an exit plan, okay? Because you can't really make an exit plan without an entry plan. Now, tip number 5 is actually the most important on this list. So all of you who made it this far, you're going to get a massive bonus today. And that is not buying until you know your foundations for your portfolio, aka you know your return on investment goals, you know how much money you need to make out of the market, and you know your risk profile, okay? And this little chart I made a while back here kind of represents this very, very well. And these bottom parts in your kind of crypto world or your whole crypto knowledge is the most important. And at the very base is, of course, the foundation, which is your risk and your reward expectations. The rest is, of course, just bonuses. But if you kind of build on all these 4 bottom things, right? The foundation, learning some basic crypto principles, understanding the best research method, which is fundamentals, and then actually executing with entry and exit levels, you're going to be ahead of 95% of other crypto investors. Everything else is just everything else. That's kind of like nuanced details, researching how to actually use DeFi, so on and so forth. You can just get extra benefits from that. So yeah, it all kind of builds on the foundation. And what is the foundation? Well, again, it's kind of like risk and reward. In this case, you got to find the right coins suited towards you. Everyone's different. That's why I have come out and said publicly many times before, I hate, and that's yes, hate in true sense and true form, when people say this is the one-size-fits-all portfolio for everyone. Guys, you got to have 20% Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum, so on and so forth. That is such BS. Everyone is different. I know degens that only buy microcaps because that's what they want. But you kind of have to divvy up your portfolio to kind of know what coins you can even begin buying. If you're someone who can afford to lose half your portfolio, well, then you can put half your coins in these category projects, and the half that you can't afford to lose, you must at least make some gains on in this side, right? So you can kind of dabble, and then based on these, of course, projects that are riskier are going to also come with higher rewards, and projects with less returns are, of course, going to have less rewards. Hence, we have these red and yellow and, you know, two shades of green here, okay? And I kind of look at it as wealth preservation towards wealth creation. You want to have a nice mix. Up here at the very, very high, 25 billion plus projects, they're almost, in quotations, guaranteed. We also have these ones here, like Hedera, ICP, Celestia, the ones 1 billion to 25 billion market cap. They offset risk for the low cap projects, but they also rely on the low cap projects to offset the lack of gains. Likewise, the yellow tier is a bit of a mixture of all of this, but still towards the wealth creation side, so riskier. And then we have the micro caps, 1 million market cap or less to 100 million market cap, okay? And again, they offset gains, and that risk they bring on is offset with these guys. And you kind of have to know this again, because by doing this, you can very easily see I've done here, you can begin finding altcoins in these categories. It's very, very simple, right? And that's how you can break up your portfolio. Now, of course, with the foundations, we have to work out your return on investment goals as well. And like I've always said, please materialize these. Don't just say, I want a 20x out of the market because my friend said a 20x is pretty good, pretty reasonable. Or I want 100x because who doesn't want more money, right? Well, that's very, very bad thinking because you've put no cap on the multiples you're looking to actually make. And that kind of pulls back into FOMO, right? If you have the extra money, like let's say you have that 25% of capital, you decide to let moon, for example, right? And you let that moon. Well, if you're a 100x greedy, person, and you decide to let it go for eternity, you're going to be holding those bags for quite a while, all right? And that again plays back into this. So for me, I need 2.8 million bucks out of the market, and that's built on how much revenue I want to make, after I make that money in the next bear market because of properties I want to buy, giving me a passive income per year. Then I want to put a couple $100,000 back into crypto, account for some tax, and that's how I come to the number. So if I'm putting in, let's just in a different example here, say, I want to 28x, and I have $20,000 initial capital to put in, and I have $20,000 I plan to dollar cost average over the next 12 months. It's $40,000 invested overall. 28x is looking at $1.1 million, right? And there's different ways. I made a video last night touching on this, and I really suggest you watch that video. Pretty much telling you similar to what I just said there, which is focusing on how to actually achieve a high multiple target with not as much money or many multiples as you might actually think. And it's kind of built around that, which is a little bit besides the topic of this part of the video. And so that, again, will allow you to pick your coins based on what categories and what multiples you're trying to chase. Hey, Bitcoin, Ethereum, I'm going to put 20% of my portfolio up here because those ones are likely to only get like a 2 to 5x. I'm going to put some over here because this is a bit more risky, but a bit more return as well. And this I'm going to have most of my portfolio in. These ones are going to be a safety net because maybe you can't afford to be too risky. And then you might double a bit down the bottom here, slightly 5% in the higher risk projects with less, of course, money overall, and, 25% in the mid area just to, of course, create those higher returns to achieve your 20x. So this is kind of how you have to do it. Again, it's all built on the foundations. And I'm sorry to say, but if you're not doing this, this is the very first thing you need to do. And I'm guessing most of us haven't done this. I can speak from experience and say, I definitely didn't do this when I started, when no one was talking about it, of course. But, if you haven't done it, please do it, okay? Because then from here, you pick your altcoins, you find your entry levels, you find your exit plan, you do your exit plan, you're all set, you're stress-free, and it just builds and compounds. People call me crazy because this is too much. I'm sorry, but I know most people leave the bull market with less money than they put in. I don't want you to have to live through it to also have that story to tell as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching today. If you have enjoyed, drop a like on the video, especially if you made it this far. I want to know how many of you guys love the content, but also remember to subscribe, guys. It really helps me out as well. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.